I try to say that, feedback should not be given in a group. Compliments should be given in a group setting. Critique or, criticism should be given one-on-one. And, praise the heck, and when somebody does something right in front of as many people as possible. But when you've got to give them some corrective suggestion or critique, do that in a one-on-one setting.
This is the Mindfulness Experience podcast. My name is Keith Fiveson. On this podcast, I had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Dave Shapiro, who's the Chief Operating Officer with Premier BPO. Premier BPO is a global communications outsourcer for sales and customer services support. Dave has spent over 30 years leading people in global organizations, helping them to be the best versions of themselves, and he's a mindful leader focused on empowerment and performance, and has incredible success and experience. He's worked around the world. He's worked with people in the Philippines, South Africa, Australia, China, Pakistan, Panama, the UK, Canada, and of course, the United States. He understands the intricacies of communications, hiring quality, and helping people to be their best. Dave is highly knowledgeable and very likable. I had a fun time with him on the show. He knows the industry inside and out, and he's helped people find their personal best by teaching them how to be mindful so that they can live lives with intentionality, which creates an empowering environment for all people involved in the process. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, we are here with Mr. Dave Shapiro. Dave, what is happening? What is going on, Dave?
Wow, Keith, it's so great to hear you, see you, and be reconnected to you. Man, lots going on in the world, as you know, lots going on, that affects personal, professional, but man, I just got back from the Philippines and hadn't been able to travel there in 2.5 years because of COVID. And so it was great to just get back and, meet and greet and be with the people on my team there.
Wow.
So I hadn't seen them in 2.5 years.
Wow. Now, so you went to the Philippines, Dave. Now, people, I just did an introduction of you, but I want people to understand that, you are a guy that I know for like decades. I know you for a long time. I'm familiar with who you are and what you're all about. And you've always been someone, in my mind, who is about empowerment, who is using customer service and customer care. And, you're involved in this industry. So tell us a little bit about how many people you have in the organization, what are you doing, and how do you get, people to go ahead and really care about other people?
So, wow, Keith, you said a couple of different things there, but just matter of factly.
Can we unpack that?
Yes. Matter of factly, our organization is a small organization.
Mm-hmm.
We're about 1,200 people in total as an organization. But yes, I'm very much a believer in empowering people and letting people gain respect and gain satisfaction in their job by having them be not a robot but being a decision maker at multi tiers down, and giving them the power to do that, and being giving them empowerment to thrive, and also allowing them to make mistakes. And you have to be able to put up or live with people's mistakes if you're going to empower them, and not so that they're not afraid to make decisions if you come down on a mistake. But twisting that to the next part of your question is how do you get people to be engaged in customer care? So tying those two things together, because they were both in your question there.
Right.
I think that if people are not just robots following a script, then they really are just doing a transaction, and they're not really engaged in providing customer care. But if they're empowered to truly help somebody, then they get satisfaction, and they get a thrill, and they get enjoyment out of helping, and it becomes self-fulfilling that if they really have the power to help somebody, they they're somehow unleashed and they feel better about it because they can make a difference, as opposed to just robotically following a script, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. So basically, one of the things we talk about, I talk about is leadership performance, and the whole idea of giving individuals the capability to be empowered, be inside themselves, and be powerful be a powerful presence with other people. Recognize, and nowadays we've got so much trauma going on in society, and customer care is a tough area because people are calling up, and they generally, in the age of self-service, people call up when they've got a problem, but they really have a problem that they're trying to fix. So do you teach or train, or does your organization teach or train people in the front line how to deal with very difficult people?
We try to,
Uh-huh.
and it's a interesting question in our business. Is it something that's trainable? I say
Mhm.
partially yes, or is it something that's also you're born with? I think partially yes, but is also something that you were taught by your mother and father. Not about, you weren't taught anything about working in a BPO space or call
Mhm.
center or customer
Mhm.
service by your mother and father, but were you brought up to be somebody who is good at listening and treating people like they would want to be treated, and so I think the answer is a little bit of all three.
Mm.
So we try and recruit for the right person, I guess is what I'm saying. And
Mhm.
part of that, recruiting for the right person is it's in their DNA, or in
Mhm.
fairness, somebody who was taught the right thing by their parents. But
Mm.
yes, we can help augment that and give
Mhm.
people who do have the right mentality. We can help give them, skill sets and tools to help perhaps
Mhm.
diffuse anger, or
Mhm.
assist people in better ways. But
Mhm.
it's a question of, is it something that's taught or something that's inbred, and I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest, your area of customer care, I mean, it's just for so many people, it's just a thankless job. Workplace stress is up. I think we've got now the great disengagement, or the 50% voluntary turnover. Stressed out leaders impact performance. And it's so hard to recruit new people and bring new people in. The cost of that is so expensive, and the training so expensive. So how do you manage, how do you really start to empower your leadership so that you can really, help the individuals themselves do the job if they haven't been trained at home, or they haven't come there and they're just stressed out. They don't know how to regulate themselves, self-regulate, right?
So again, you packed a couple things into that, Keith. So I'm smiling as you said that. A couple of questions. So, how do you empower the leadership? I guess first I've got to practice what I preach. I've got to be a good role model. I've got to empower my direct reports and my leaders, and
Mhm.
allow them to do things,
Mm.
positively for the organization. But when they do make a mistake or do something I wouldn't have done,
Mhm.
have to let them run with it, so that then they remodel it to the people below them and to people below them. So,
Mm.
it has to be a continually
Mhm.
professed belief of the company,
Mhm.
to empower. We just
Mhm.
rolled out in our company, coincidentally for this conversation,
Mhm.
a new set of missions, visions,
Mhm.
culture
Right.
statement, and we of course did the normal thing that everybody does. We
Mhm.
put it on a PowerPoint, we presented it, all that. But you know,
Mm.
it will be all hollow if we don't live it. And that's what I
Right.
kind of preach to some of our leaders, is that you not only have to model this yourself, but when you see it not
Mhm.
being modeled by somebody else on your team
Mhm.
or a colleague, a peer, or whatever, we have to call it out when we
Right.
see culture, or we see something that goes against what we believe, even though we got it on our PowerPoint. Who
Mhm.
cares about our PowerPoint if we put up with it not being modeled in our organization, if that makes any
Right,
sense.
right. No, it makes total sense. There's a saying that mindfulness-based leadership is about the state of being fully present, aware of yourself, sensitive to others' reactions to stressful situations, and also being effective in understanding and relating to others and helping to motivate them towards shared goals. So you've done a lot of that. You not only put out the PowerPoint, but you are there and you live it. So you help educate, you improve, and then you enhance those skills in the organization. How challenging is that? And how do you go about doing that in the organization? I mean, do you, obviously it's a one-on-one thing, but is there a sort of a process that you bring people through when you onboard them and you know, before you put them on the phone, or regularly coach them, or how does that work?
So yes, it is a challenge, Keith, and we're talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. But by no means do I profess that I personally am perfect at it, or that our organization is perfect at it. I'm constantly seeing areas and examples within our organization where we're not living it all the time, and so I'm not proud of that, and I get embarrassed by it. But to answer your question, so to me, those are the opportunities when I do see it and I can call it out and say, that's not what we want to be. That's not who we are. Those are the better learning experiences that help show other people, I believe, and really put it in words, and living the examples about how we can then relay it to other people. And again, you're asking about the people on the phones in the front line as we bring them in. And of course, they're the most important people in our company, because they're the ones representing us to our brands and the consumers we serve. However, in this case, and I put huge emphasis on who they are, I'll keep coming back to, it's the management, the middle management, that has to get the culture more so than the agents, because it can't stop from bottom up. It has to come from top down. If they don't see their management living this kind of culture and mindfulness, then they won't themselves. So it has to be, from multiple layers down.
Right. Well, there's a wonderful slide that I've got that really talks about improving performance as a top-down, bottom-up, effort. So within the organization, you're providing the aspirational goals, the vision, the wisdom, the foresight, and really helping people from the bottom up to regulate, to be more aware, to bring attention, to go ahead and adhere to those values, so you have a collective organization. One of the things that I recently read, you probably have seen it, about positive management, positive leaders, out of the Harvard Business Review, was that they foster social connections, they show empathy, they go out of their way to help, and they encourage people to talk about their problems. Tell me, in your organization, how does that work in terms of fostering social connections, showing empathy, going out of your way to help, and encouraging people to talk about their problems? Is there somewhat of a dynamic there? Does that apply?
Absolutely applies. And once again, you put a lot of things into that. It's interesting because I just came back from the Philippines, as I said, and I'm the COO of the organization. We also have a CEO, of course, as everybody does, and he's brand new as well. He's 3 months old. Fortunately, we share a lot of cultural beliefs and visions. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is, so because of COVID, we haven't been able to be there in the last 2 years. And so we held an all company, not meeting, an all company gathering. Okay. And, which is rare in our industry. I mean, usually maybe a Christmas party for some companies, but we held a big dinner for the entire company. And back to what you pointed about, fostering social connections. So we've a lot of our teams have been working from home. A lot of the teams only work with their own people on their own campaigns or their own client. And then a lot of them don't get to see each other, spend time with each other. This event, Keith, we had high hopes for it, but I got to tell you, it was just Saturday night. It was so well received, and the people so loved it. And the managers at our site there said, "Dave, you don't know what you did. This is better than giving people a raise." And that's a quote unquote. Of course, money matters. I understand that. But I mean, specifically related to your question about, fostering social connections. It was a 4-hour event, and literally, we had people raving that, we would take the time to do this. And of course, we walked around the room and met everybody and tried to spend as much time as possible. But the specific answer to your question about, have I seen social connections, as a way, of course, attrition is a tough problem in this whole industry, and we like to think ours is lower than most. But literally, I'm coming out of this event, and our senior leaders, at our site in the Philippines, were raving, telling me, Dave, this is better for our employee engagement than giving people raises. They felt that
Mm-hmm.
strong about it, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. And let me ask you, is that so when you look at, I know you've put together a sort of a thesis, a kind of a way of doing a practical approach to doing business. And, obviously, the name of the podcast is the Mindfulness Experience. So you're creating these wonderful mindfulness experiences that people will remember, certainly for a long time. But they're, from the viewpoint of leadership in the space, like really managing 1,200 people is, it's still a pretty big organization. From small businesses, 1,200 people, that's a lot of people. So I'm just wondering, from your view, when we start taking a look at leadership and we start taking a look at mindset around how to create, a service-based culture, as you've got, what are some of the things that you might, kind of off the cuff, recommend that people look at, from the bottom up or the top down?
Well, first of all, Keith, I mean, I love that question. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a cliche phrase, and I feel bad that it's cliche because I really believe it, but I really believe in servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope I try to live it, and I try and preach it for others to be servant leaders. And they have to understand that, the people who have these fancy titles are meaningless if the people down below aren't doing everything that they need to and engage for your company.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest answer to me is servant leadership, and that servant leadership has to be lived and modeled. Coming back, not that this end all be all of this dinner that I was just at over the weekend, but when we were a little example, we had a long line of people were checking in for this dinner, and it was taking too long. And some of my middle managers thought that I was getting frustrated because it was taking too long, which I was getting frustrated. But they were like, "Oh, Dave, go back, have a drink, relax, don't worry, we'll take care of this." And I took the exact opposite approach. I said, "No, I'm not going to go back and sit down and wait. I'm going to come here and give me a chair, give me a table. I'll help check people in. Let's get this done." And the fact of me helping check people in, I think, was not the point that I checked anybody in, but that I was willing to do it and roll up my hands, and then everybody who checked in got to meet me and say hello, and not that it's any big deal to meet me, but just a silly little example to your question about what demonstrating what servant leadership is.
So having servant leadership, you provided the capability to show that you were right there. You help influence people in that way, and you actually showed them that you're not above it. You're really a part of the team and a part of the crew, if you will. So when we start looking at organizations and the ability to have this kind of leadership, you're saying certainly influencing, getting in there, being a part of the crew is a part of the process of leadership. Where does active listening come in, or positive feedback, or corrective feedback, or coaching? How does that really blend into the kind of things that you're doing organizationally?
Again, a lot packed in there. So
yeah. I mean, I have more. I can pack in a little bit more if you want to get into meeting processes.
No. I love what you said about active listening, because I love what you said about active listening, because I'm preaching that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a cliche, you probably have heard this many times, Keith. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Oh yeah.
Because you're supposed to do twice as much listening as you do talking. Too many times people feel that, okay, in order to show how valuable they are, how important they are, they've got to jump in and say something. They've got to say something. But they really didn't listen to the person that they were talking to, or what was happening in the meeting. And so what they say then doesn't become as valued because it doesn't fit. It's not appropriate. It's not tailored. It's not customized. It's not really relevant because they didn't do enough listening first. And I'm constantly trying to preach that. Talking about calling out when something doesn't fit the right culture. I think it relates. I mean, when you talk about active listening and truly empathetically listening, too many times people are multitasking in a meeting. They're in a meeting and they're texting. They're in a meeting, they're checking their emails. They're in a meeting, they're on a Zoom call, and they're doing something else on the side. and there's no way that you can be multitasking and truly be engaged and listening.
Right.
And
I
therefore,
totally agree with that. Yeah.
you can't provide value. So
Mhm.
when I see it
Mhm.
on my team, I
Right.
try my best to call it out and say, "Hey, stop! If you've got something more important to do, this sounds nasty, and I don't mean it harsh, but if you've got something else to do, go do that. Don't do this. Don't do
Right.
both." And I've been on a meeting when, I'm embarrassed to admit this in our organization, but I've been on a Zoom meeting. Well, I'll receive an email
Hmm.
from somebody else on the call
Hmm.
who's sending me an email about a different topic. I'm like,
Hmm.
what are you doing? I mean, we're on this call right now.
Right.
You're sending an email about another topic,
Right.
which means you're not really paying attention to this topic.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and actually, I really appreciate talking to you about this, Keith, because I've called it out, but
Hmm.
this is such a frustrating topic to me. I think I'm going to be stronger about it now that I'm talking to you about it. Not only am I going to say stop, I think I'm actually going to ask people to leave. I
Well,
think
we have meeting. The thing that I really like is the whole idea of meeting processes. Every time that we look at starting a meeting is to really have a moment of just silence, breathing, just really, what do I want to bring into the meeting? What do I intend? And how will I focus in on the meeting, not on anything else? Being here right now, present, and how can I contribute and how can I receive, right? So you've got that as a meeting process. That's not something that's practiced everywhere, but I think more and more organizations are practicing it because they realize that, time is our only commodity. There is nothing more that we've got than time, right?
right.
And most times that people just sort of squander it and try to do everything at one time when they're not being present, as you point out. Someone actually sent you an email while they were in the meeting, and they
Oh, actually, Keith, I'm smiling. I'm smiling because it's
uh-huh.
happened more than you. It's not just someone did it
Uh-huh.
once. It's
Right.
happened multiple times,
Right.
and it's on my team, so I'm embarrassed about it. But
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So there's a lot of so there is in this process of what you do. I mean, it's not all, as you say, having parties and then taking the role of checking people in. There is this idea of having the meeting process, having some corrective feedback. How do you really deal with that challenge of corrective feedback? The old story was you put it in a sandwich, right? You give them a compliment, you put the stuff that you got to say there, and then you leave them feeling. Do you believe in that? You leave them feeling right. Do you believe that that's the right approach? Do you have an approach to corrective feedback when you're working with folks?
I do. And again, I'll preface that I won't say that I'm perfect at it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's times when I lose my patience, and that's inappropriate of me. But I try to say that feedback should not be given in a group.
Mm-hmm.
Compliments should be given in a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
Critique or criticism should be given one on one.
Right.
And praise the heck, and when somebody does something right in front of as many people as possible. But
Mm-hmm.
when you've got to give them some corrective suggestion or critique,
Right.
do that in a one-on-one setting.
One-on-one setting, and I like the German word for criticism, which is verbessern, right? It's to make better, to really say, hey, you're a great guy, and you've been doing a good job, but I'm just a little. I'm looking at this, and I think you could do a little bit better in this area. I noticed that you, blah blah blah, whatever it is. Is that fair? Is that some of what you do?
Absolutely, yes. I try to live that. I mean, the question becomes that I still wrestle with
Mm-hmm.
is when you've done that, and then you've done that a couple times. Then you get to the situation with the person. Is it a skill
Mm-hmm.
issue or is it a will
Mm-hmm.
issue? And I
Mm-hmm.
like to think that if it's a skill issue, we can work with anybody. But if it's a will issue, if we're butting heads on style, and your
Mm-hmm.
style is different than mine, and ultimately maybe we're not
Mm-hmm.
a great fit for each other, if it's a will issue versus a skill issue.
Got it. Okay. So there is a whole idea of leadership, which is I'm the leader, you're not. And if you want to row in the direction that I'm taking the boat, right? The vision and the aspiration in terms of where we're going, I'd love to have you there. But otherwise, hey, you can jump off the boat, right?
Well, actually, you're making me feel bad if I came across that way, because Yeah, I mean, if you don't fit our culture, yes, we're you might not be the
Right.
right fit. But no, I don't want to say that I'm the leader, row all my way. If somebody's got a different way of rowing and can present it, I want ideas. I don't want a bunch of yes people.
Right.
I don't want people who are afraid to challenge me. And I'm trying to drill this home with our team all the time. I don't want people who are afraid to ask questions or even tell me that they disagree. I want healthy disagreement. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm not. I rarely am. I'm never the smartest person in the room. But the challenge is to get people to bring out their smarts and feel comfortable in presenting ideas. Listen, I tell people all the time, give me your ideas, disagree with me. I said, I promise you this. I promise you will receive an open-minded audience, meaning me, and I will listen. I'm not promising you'll win every battle. But I'm promising that I'll be receptive. You'll win some, you'll lose some, but we'll be better. But if you bring up your ideas, so if you all say that, listen, Dave, we should stop rowing this way. We have a different paddle we just invented. We should go that way. I'll go, that's okay. Maybe we all get on board and do that. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll listen and say I really did listen, but we shouldn't do it that way for this reason. But I promise you, you'll listen. And the organization will grow and the individual will grow if we all believe that we can contribute with our ideas. Not just doing as they're told.
Great. So, one of the things I've admired about you over the years is that you really are a visionary. You've got a lot of, you've got a vision of the way things go, and you really know how to communicate. You're a great communicator, and you're a wonderful storyteller, and you're able to influence people. How do you create a performance culture? Is it using that concept of bring the idea to me? Because obviously if there's a better paddle and we're going towards the horizon over there, I'd like to make sure that we use it. What are your thoughts about creating a performance culture?
So I'll tell you what, you said performance culture, but I'm going to answer more on the question about how do we cultivate ideas that as you just asked about. Something that I'm really proud of, and I'm proud of it. This was not my idea. It was somebody else's organization's idea. But we just are instituting, you're asking me at a perfect timing, we're introducing something called Pitch Fest. And it's brand new for our organization. And I think it's going to be probably unique for a lot of companies. And what Pitch Fest is, it's kind of like a Shark Tank where we promoted to our entire company, every level. Doesn't matter your department, your title. You could be a frontline agent. You could be the person who cleans the bathroom. Literally anybody who works for our company is invited. Every single person is treated equally. To come and present to our strategy team, myself and our CEO, a 3-minute idea that you have for the company. Could be how we can increase revenue, how we can improve employee engagement, how we can improve profitability, how can we improve for our clients. Doesn't matter. It's a free form thing, and you get 3 minutes to present your idea, and we were going to see, and then we told people.
I love the idea. It's great.
And you present the idea, and then after, we're going to pick a few key ones and then do a deeper dive, and we'll help, have a strategy team help flesh them out. So Keith, I love the idea too, but who cares what I think and what you think? So, well, what do the people think? So we would have been happy with, wow, maybe we'll get 10 or 20 registrants, or, will people or won't they participate? We didn't know. Keith, I'm not exaggerating. We just got our socks blown off, but 167 people registered.
Wow.
167. We are floored. Now, we're doing this podcast a little early. Call me in 2 weeks, and I'll let you know how many of them, the ideas, what it was like, and how many of them were good or well thought out. But right now, we are thrilled. And admittedly a little overwhelmed, meaning because we have to hold up to our promise of reviewing all 167.
167, that's like 13% of the people, right?
Yes.
Oh, goodness, wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. It is amazing. We are stunned. We are pleasantly stunned. And
Be careful what you ask for. Yeah.
Yes, we created a monster. But now we have to live up to it.
That's great.
Matter of fact, one of our strategy team meetings asked myself and the CEO, so wow, you want us to preview them and boil it down for you? We said, no, we have to honor our commitment. We're going to have every single person present to us. So we got to figure out how to logistically do this. But we have 167 people. So
that's amazing.
And, if that doesn't help profess who cares what we say on a PowerPoint that, well, we want your ideas. No,
Right.
we're actually showing this. And oh, by the way, somebody's going to, we've got a first, second prize, third prize award we're going to give, if it's implemented and that kind of thing. But right now, and this is just happening as we speak, meaning we've just gone through the internal promotion and saying, here, check out this Pitch Fest idea. We branded it Pitch Fest. And like I said, 167 people have signed up.
That's amazing, Dave. That's absolutely amazing. So when we start taking a look at performance culture, you're going in there feet first and you're saying, hey, we want a performance culture. Come on to the stage, pitch us your idea, tell us what you have in mind. And then what do you do with that afterwards? Is there a guarantee, or, I mean, what do they get? I know on Shark Tank, they get, a pretty hefty investment. What are you guys given? What's in it for me?
Well, so yes, I'm smiling. Obviously, I don't think they're going to get as hefty an award as perhaps comes out of Shark Tank, but we're going to give something that I think will be very appreciated, for the people that are in the geographies where we employ people, and it's going to be a pretty good cash amount. But more important than that, what I hope they get is the esteem and prestige and the feel good that they're actually contributing to the company, because they're going to see their idea implemented. And I also hope they see that we really are treating all people, from every department. It's not just that I'm only taking ideas from our, 1 down reports or 2 down reports. Agent level, and everybody's encouraged. And I think initially agents might have been nervous. Well, they don't really want my idea, do they? And so then it kind of like snowballed. And I think the trick is for us to make sure that we fulfill it and really do honor. And we'll internally we'll brag about the idea that gets implemented and the people that that it came from, and so that I want people to feel that this is a place that they can build a career. They're not stuck on frontline phone agent. If they help cultivate this idea, there's a huge opportunity going forward for them.
So before we leave that, just so I understand, so if my idea doesn't get accepted, I mean, will I get dejected, and will I get upset, and will I walk away with my tail between my legs, or how are you going to handle that?
I hope you won't, Keith, but because we did tell people that there's going to be 3 primary winners, but vice versa. If somebody's got a great idea but it's not as good as the first 3, it's a 4, 5, 6. No, we might implement that. We ad hoc, we may choose to reward that person, but we're still going to tell people that maybe this is an idea that we should do in the future. Maybe this is an idea if we tweak it, it can be done differently. So it's hopefully we'll give people feedback and they'll learn from doing this. We've created an internal strategy team, which I'm also kind of proud of for a company our size. And what we're doing is everybody who's registered for the Pitch Fest to present their idea has a strategy team at their disposal to help them, coach them on how to do a little research about their idea and how to best to present their idea, kind of like a coach for somebody before they go on the Shark Tank stage. So we're helping them with their career development. And again, this could be anybody. It could be the security guard, could be the janitor. I mean, anybody. And so they have access to our strategy team to help coach them about how to flesh out their idea and best present their idea. So hopefully they're learning some career skills in the process. So we're going to benefit from the idea, hopefully, but they're going to benefit from going through it.
I love that. And then also they become part of a special sort of skunk works team. They're identified. And if you have other issues or other problems, they could be brought in later on as a part of that triage, if you will, that special triage team that looks at how to solve problems.
Absolutely, Keith. I love what you're saying, because we're also selfishly, we're looking at it. This is a way to identify talent. We might have some, invisible, unsung person right now with great talent, but we don't know about it. And they're just sitting in a corner somewhere. And hopefully this will flesh that out. Now we'll be able to identify that person. So to answer your question of a couple of minutes ago, maybe that person didn't win, but we were still so impressed that we said, wow, we got to keep our eye on this person. And when we need something else, maybe we can call on this person, or maybe we can give this person something or another opportunity, because it's a way of identifying talent, not just picking their brains for their ideas.
Right. Now, I know, we had started out talking about, trauma, about how we've gone through COVID and how, difficult the customer care, the consumer affairs area is, how all of that is. Now, I know you just came back from SOCAP, and you were talking about, one of the things I noticed, you were talking about all the great ideas that you got at SOCAP, the Society of Consumer Affairs Professionals. And I'm wondering, from your viewpoint, as we start to wrap the time that we've got together down, what kind of things can you leave behind for people who are looking at performance in organizations or looking at managing teams? And again, I know there's a lot to unpack here. I'm just wondering, from your view, if you were to leave people with some, like thoughts afterwards, and they say, I don't know about everything else that Dave said, but I know that he left me with these sort of jewels, these little nuggets that I can take with me that I might be able to implement in my organization. Is there something that comes to mind for you?
Well, a couple things. So we talked earlier in the conversation about empowering people, and I'm loving your question now, because you really can't empower people unless you share information with them. So one of the things I say is, hopefully that someone would take out of this is, in the old days, and even current in a lot of companies, they keep so many things secret. So I can't empower performance from you, Keith, if you don't know why and if you don't have the information. So let's talk about profitability. Keith, you need to make some decisions to cut some costs in your area. But I haven't shared all the costs with you, and I haven't shared my gross margins and my information. So you're kind of in the blind. You're just robotically making some cuts. Meanwhile, if I had given you the information ahead of time, what is our goal? What's our margins? All the if I give you the same information that I'm looking at on my reports, then you can see ahead of time, oh, wow, we need to do this. Or maybe we can afford to do something a little extra here because we're doing better here, and maybe we need to cut back over here. But if I share, too many companies, I think, keep information secret. And who are they hurting? They're hurting themselves, because their people then can't make informed decisions, and yet they want empowered people, but the people can't be mind readers. So without information, they can't make informed, empowered decisions, if that makes sense.
I love that. So, one of the things I talk about is the organizational development. There's a model called the Teal model from Frederick Laroe. And, basically it's more of a flat organization, helping everyone to really gain the wisdom and the foresight with insight, giving them the information and the knowledge so that everyone can have shared values in the organization, and everyone can have the attention towards those values and towards that foresight, if you will, and be aware and breathe together. So you've really kind of formulated that idea in the way you share information, you bring everybody on, you empower the organization, you empower the people, and you help them to shift their perspective by recognizing that you're not any better than any of them. You're actually you're a servant leader to them, and you're really, helping them to develop themselves so that they can go ahead and develop a better world for themselves and everyone else.
That is the intent, Keith. I think we're a work in progress, as everybody is. I mean, I don't think anybody's perfected this, but I think part of the trick is to acknowledge that you need to keep getting better at it.
So Dave, let me stop you for a second. So tell me, if people want to get a hold of you and start like getting some more of that gray matter of yours, how do they go about doing that?
So Keith, I'm on LinkedIn. It's Dave Shapiro at Premier BPO. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be very receptive to any connections. You can put I'm available. My email is dshapiro@premierbpo.com, and I'll give out my phone number. It's 248-797-1313. And I'm very receptive to having conversations with people like-minded, and frankly, people not like-minded. If maybe we can both learn from each other.
And Dave, you've got a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. You've been in this industry for, I guess, I know you for almost, should I say, close to 30 years? It's almost 30 years, Dave? Is that possible? Oh my goodness, is that possible? Yeah, I think it is. Dave, and then you've been involved in various configurations. So I want to thank you again, Dave, for taking the time to be on the show. And is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Any kind of quote, any kind of saying that comes to mind?
Keith, I just want to thank you for, your series of podcasts. I believe they're serving a great purpose in the market as people, looking at the mindfulness topic, and I appreciate being on it. And I don't know if I, in some very, very small way, helped somebody, one or two of your listeners, hopefully.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for being a part of the Mindfulness Experience podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show with Dave Shapiro. I hope he gave you some ideas too on how to bring mindfulness into your organization to go ahead and empower communications, teams, and customers to have great experiences. I think that's essential. For more information about Dave and his company, search for Premier BPO. We have other exciting guests coming up on the future podcasts, so follow the podcast, connect, leave us a review, and suggest some topics. I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on our social media platforms and visit my website at workmindfulness.com for more mindfulness experience moments. Thank you again. I hope to see you on the next show. Take care.